as I mentioned, we did a sustainability issue, and sometimes we don't even know whether we should call it that because we are talking about celebrating the earth. And Dr. Sherman and her team of writers that do the and that do all the special issues for us actually was the editor again of our sustainability issue. And we are grateful to have her with us today, along with Airielle, Lowe, and Isaac Welch, two students from Howard University. So I want to welcome all of you all to WIN TV.
Thank
So,
you.
Dr. Sherman, looks like we have a new topic to talk about next year. Well, we've done this before, though. We have done this before.
And I just, happy Earth Day. Hey, good to see you
Thank
still
you.
as well.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up on that. I think it's amazing that you actually had a crew outside that's looking at repurposing food. There's a great app called Too Good to Go, and basically you just put in your zip code, and within a 6 mile radius, I have it on my phone. You can't really see that, but Too Good to Go will tell you different restaurants in the area. It is broken down by categories and food types and all of that, where they're about to get rid of food and it's still edible, but it's past the point where they may want to sell it. And so or it has another shelf life of maybe a day or two. And so this could be any type of food. So there are like Indian restaurants on here. There's vegetarian restaurants on here. There's Jamaican restaurants on here. And you literally just put in the app, and it'll tell you whatever you get will cost you $4 or $2.
Wow.
And you literally pay for it through the app, and then you just run by and pick it up.
Not bad.
So,
okay, that's wonderful.
so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because
look
you
for
often,
that.
you're in these restaurants and you're like, especially during COVID and now post, well, we can't say post COVID, but sort of, restaurants really had to cut down on the amount of food that they were purchasing and preparing. But because, it costs them money, but then there's a waste and you still wonder, they get 3 customers in a day and they've got enough food to feed 100. That doesn't work. So it makes sense
Exactly.
to have that app. So thanks for sharing. So Dr. Sherman, you've done this sustainability issue for a few years now. And one, I want to know about the theme that you did for this year, but I really want to know for you personally, what has working on something like this which is frustrating. A lot of times people say that Black people aren't really into sustainability or environmental issues or what have you. I mean, talk about the evolution, if there was one that you had once you started doing this, and then the theme for this week.
I don't believe that there really has been an evolution, except perhaps in the fact that people recognize that we're here now. But we've always, African Americans have always found a multitude of ways of using any particular thing. And so whether it's food, and when we talk about from the rooter to the tutor, or, we know what it is, to take the scraps of different foods to create something else. And often it becomes the scraps that become the main dish or the thing that we actually love the most. So we've always done that. If it's when we first started talking about the plastic bag issues in DC, I kept laughing because I was thinking, many African Americans will get a plastic bag, but that then becomes the trash bag. And that then becomes, the bin liner, or that then becomes the pooper scooper bags that you use later on. So we have a tendency to repurpose things anyway. We've always gardened. We've always canned foods or jarred foods. So it's always been there. I think that just as the rest of the world is coming around to it, we're starting to realize this is something that grandma and great grandma or grandpa did years ago. And maybe moving into urban spaces, we lost some of that, but we've still found ways again of repurposing almost everything we have, even the Crown Royal bags, and I laugh about that. That becomes the change bag.
It's funny because I did an editorial this week, and really I talked about the fact that it was the Africans sort of just like the Native Americans, connection to the earth that made us such great farmers. And while we didn't benefit from what our knowledge was or what was innately with a part of us, we were used, to actually our skills were used to feed a world, and always has been. And so, it's an interesting kind of progress. But your theme this week is
Building for Mother Nature's Wrath. And initially, the thought came to me is that across DC right now, there's an extreme amount of building, and whether it's renovations or just new developments, it's all there. And so I started looking at the fact that years ago, buildings were built for a 99-year purpose or longer. So if you go again to historical colleges, Duke University, or Georgetown, whatever. These are buildings that were built then and they're still standing. So a storm could come through, floods could come through, but they were built to last. And I kept thinking, the buildings that are being built now, will they stand the test of time? And then in speaking with Melvin Mitchell, who's an amazing, iconic architect, he was able to kind of break down, some of the issues that African Americans as builders, as master builders, already knew. And so again, this thing of the rest of the world is catching up to what we were already doing, whether it was making bricks out of straw or other things, not trying to move necessarily into concrete, but finding different ways of using steel and different types of metals to make sure that they sustained the environment, but didn't let off this carbon, the carbon emissions that will later on cause problems that we're trying to deal with now. We've already been in the forefront of this. It's just that no one knew that we were there. So I thought it would be great to kind of explore what we're doing as far as storms and these natural disasters that the climate change has caused to kind of surface at this point.
Wonderful. And one of the things you always do in your issues that I think is so special is to provide a reading list or books that relate to the topic. And did you discover, I know you had a few in there, but is there one you would recommend to our viewers?
Well, oddly enough, one of the books that I left out of that list for space purposes, though, was Melvin Mitchell's new book. So if you can find that, it basically deals with African American builders, and specifically how they've put their plans to the forefront. And again, only now are people starting to realize, oh, this is master craftsmanship. And it's something that we need, and we've needed all along. So I would definitely recommend that. I'm trying to see if I have it sitting somewhere in the list of books, but I don't here. I'll put it in the chat when I find it, though.
So we had the opportunity to work with some students from Howard University, the capstone class, who were also creating or writing articles that dealt with Earth Day or sustainability. And we have two of them with us, Airielle Lowe and Isaac Welch, two individuals that will be graduating from Howard in a few weeks. Woo-hoo! I'm going to actually kind of turn it over to you a little bit, Shantella, to talk to them about, their articles and kind of, what they wrote about and what have you.
Well, first, I want to thank HU and Dr. Lamb, Yannick Rice Lamb, for allowing us to pilfer some of her students for this great work this year. So first, Airielle and Isaac, if you would introduce yourselves. Again, I like it better when you guys say who you are and talk a little bit about each of you, what you decided to work on and why.
Absolutely. You can go first, Airielle.
Well, first off, hi, my name is Airielle Lowe. I am a graduating senior journalism major and criminology minor from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I worked on two stories. The first is called How a North Carolina Fertilizer Plant Uncovered the History of Geographical Racism and Segregation. And the second one is called The Chemicals in Your Sandwich Wrapper, Pots and Pans That Never Die. So the first one, I wanted to look at the Winston Weaver fertilizer plant, which caught on fire at the end, towards the end of January 31st, and it burned for 4 days straight. And a lot of those who were within the mile radius of the fertilizer plant were Black or of minority communities. And so I was a bit curious because I know that, Black people tend to live near industrial facilities, and a bit curious as to, okay, so how did all of these particular Black people end up near this plant? So the story is just basically looking into the city's history of environmental racism, segregation, and then also the state of North Carolina as a whole. And then the second story is based off a study done by Consumer Reports, which tested numerous products, some of which included fast food packaging for a chemical known as PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, because of the fact that once they get in your body, they kind of stay there for a long time. So looking into, how that's detrimental, what can we do to solve this issue in the long run, and things of that nature.
And it was brilliant. Thank you. Yes, Isaac.
For sure. All right. So my name is Isaac Welch. I'm a graduating senior as well. Born in Houston, Texas, but from Portland, Maine. And I did a story on centered around environmental racism as well, and related topics. It's also focused on gentrification in Anacostia. So my article was centered around basically just the Anacostia River and how the ecology of this defining feature affects the neighborhood and the lives of the people around it. Mainly focusing on new improvements that are coming to the river. There are a handful of organizations that are dedicated to improving its quality, such as the Anacostia Watershed Society. They've made a commitment to make the river swimmable and fishable by EPA standards by 2025, which to many is kind of a stark claim when you first hear it, but they're very dedicated to that. And we're also looking at how improving the quality of the river affects the stigma and affects, just the lives in general of the people here. So I went around, I interviewed people from the Watershed Society, interviewed some local residents, and I really got a good, sample of how people feel and how people perceive this environment, and how the river is related to that. So yeah.
Do you think that either of you learned something within this process that you didn't know before?
Yeah, I would say so. In my article, learning about gentrification, one thing that I learned is that, when we think about gentrification, it's kind of spoken of in general terms, wherein we think of white demographic encroaching in a Black neighborhood. However, gentrification, the root of it just means, people in general. So that refers to more than just racial demographics. That refers also to people of different income brackets and different levels of education, and just the fluctuation of people from different socioeconomic statuses coming into different areas. It's more than just a Black and white issue. So looking at how that affects longstanding communities as well is an important thing for us to be aware of.
I think I've learned a lot about North Carolina as a whole. Even though I'm from there, I didn't really know much about the city of Winston-Salem. Sorry. I have family that's from there, but, learning about the city's history and dealing with racism and segregation was something new for me. As well as, I learned some things such as North Carolina has a lot of poultry producing farms, and most of them are located in Eastern North Carolina, which, coincidentally, or maybe not, but it's located near a lot of Black and brown communities. And, that affects them very negatively as well. And also learning about, concerning the forever chemicals, the fact that they're pretty ubiquitous and, there's not much data knowledge about them, especially what they can do for you in the long run. But it could prove to be a problem, especially knowing that Black people typically tend to consume more fast food than other races. And also even in your nonstick pans, which, I cook with mostly nonstick pans, but learning about that and how that's detrimental. And also it just lets you look inward to figure out solutions like, okay, these are the things and these are the actions that I need to take to make this change, not just in the community, but in society.
Right.
Dr. Sherman, I could listen to Isaac and Airielle all day long because I'm learning so much. One, about the stories they tell, but just how they've explored all these topics. Isaac, you're doing a Earth Day event today. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So we're posted up right in front. I don't know if you can see the Anacostia Community Rec Center, right by the river. And we've reached out to a bunch of volunteers from Howard and just the surrounding areas, just to come volunteer their time and help assess some of the pollution and some of the trash that's affecting the river. So we have that going on today. We're still waiting on some volunteers to pull through. But it's kind of a two-part event. We have the cleanup happening this morning, and then later in the afternoon we're gonna have some live music going on as well, just to celebrate our work and to celebrate Earth Day.
Wonderful. Airielle, you do anything special for Earth Day today besides being with us?
Unfortunately, not at the moment, because I do have work, but maybe something this weekend to make up for that.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Sherman, one, I think you did a great job with the issue this week. We're really trying to get it out. You'll find some of their stories, not only in the paper, but online as well. And, you all keep up the great work. I know there's some fantastic things ahead of you. Airielle, I heard you getting ready to go work for Bloomberg, an internship with Bloomberg. And I see that great, fantastic writing that you're doing needs to be read across the globe. So I wish you the best with that. And you too, Isaac, who knows, folks might see you again someplace familiar. We don't know.
Hopefully.
So good luck to you all. And thank you again for your participation and great job, Dr. Sherman.
Thank you. Just to let you know, Melvin Mitchell's book is African American Architects Embracing Culture and Building Urban Communities.
All right. We saw that in the private chat, but we're going to put that in the regular comments so that our viewers can see it. And a lot of folks out there saying, wishing you all congratulations and good luck and all of that. So again, thank you so much. And tell Professor Lamb we said thank you.
Thank you.
Will do. Right. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, doke.